Welcome back, everybody, to the Sport Quattro build. And boy, was this one a lot of thinking. I had to get my hillbilly brain wound up in order to figure out how to do this. Because, as in the last episode, we just tied in the lower part of the chassis. This time, we have to tie in the back part of the chassis to the actual 4000 section that we put in there. I had to really think about this because one of the things we have to worry about, you know, putting the fuel tank in, putting the battery, putting all the other bits and pieces like the spare tire and the longitudinals for the crash protection or frame rails or whatever you want to call them. They're all bent up from the originals, but or rusty. But what I did do is I had to make stiffening plates for the side because seeing how the fender flares are so thin, they provide no crash protection whatsoever. None. They're paper thin. What I had to do is I had to rebuild, or I had to build a section into this, and I had to figure out what to use. I recycled German parts from the ship boxes that we friggin' chopped up for this car. So let me show you what I did, and you might think I'm a complete lunatic, but I think it looks pretty neat, and it was by far, I thought, the easiest solution. So let me show you what I did. Here we are on the left side of the car. As you can see, right here, I have a lip, and I have all of this basically bent up around. I didn't do any of this. This came from the car, and I welded it in to the chassis. The original portion right here was all empty. This portion was basically, this steel fender to that wheel well was the crash protection. This wasn't. This was basically an addition, which is, I believe it's more for rollover protection, but I do not know. What I needed to have was a curvature right here that pretty much conforms, not exactly, but as close as I could approximately get it, to the wheel well. I'm still going to cut this out and use it when I weld in the actual floor for the spare tire. But let me show you now what I used to make this section. Yep, I'm using the door from one of the 4000 Quattros. Especially the one that was smashed by the tree. What do we got? Take a look. This structure right here is a very, very stiff piece of material because of all the bends that they put into it. We have a lip right here that we can use to attach the floor pan to, or the trunk floor pan to. And we have the curve right there that we can attach to the wheel well. There's a lot of things done already on this that we don't have to do, and a lot of it you're not going to see. But what we have to do is we have to cut out, I overly cut it out. I'm just going to cut out the actual sill, the actual internal part of the door, and then trim it to fit when I get it in there. And you have to remember, there was no expense spared on the paint job for this door because they actually used an extra amount of paint to paint the rubbers to color match to the door, which I thought, that's pretty slick. It's like spending all that extra money. But let's first cut this up. Yes, I'm being facetious. Let's cut this thing up so we have something that we can tailor and slice up to make work with the Sport. Let's start trimming. That's your door without the inner part. Pretty wobbly. Now that we got enough room to work, basically this section is going to go right here. We have to just give a rough cut. First rough cut, what we're going to do is we have to discard this right here, this edge. because it's going to fit flush there. Go right down to there. So that'll be the first cut right there. Just cutting it so we have a flush surface to go roughly right to there. That's kind of what I'm looking at on the inside of the car. This right here is a nice, straight, flat line with a bend in it. What does that do? It gives me something to weld to. Also, when I put this flat line against this flat line, it basically evens it up. And I can trim the rest and weld it to right here into this section on the inside. What I have to do next, this portion right here has to be cut off, because this thing will not fit inside. And there's really nothing going to be attaching here. So let me go in with the cutter. I will zip this off, and that way I can start grinding the metal and putting it up inside here. I mean, we still have to cut a hole for the gas tank, but that's at the very end anyway. So let's cut this off, then we can start fitting it up and seeing what it looks like. Now that we got this section just roughly in there, we have to now start trimming instead of hacking. Yeah, I made a mark right here. This is pretty much where I want to cut up there and bring it down here so I can slide this section in further, because this is actually stronger than this. And then we'll start trimming this side so we can actually kind of somewhat fit it up to the actual sill up here. We have this section of the door in there. What I want to do is start trimming this so I can start pushing it that way. So I'm just going to make pretty much a cut right here. That's it, just so I can slide it in there, and I'll trim the rest of it off later. But for now, push this in so we can get this kind of squared up. We can get this matched up with this line and trim the other stuff on the inside so we can make it fit to the fender. I mean, yeah, to the fender next to the lights. This is where it's going to sit. This indentation right here is the vent for the outside. It's flat up against there, so it actually, I think that looks factory, but whatever. We're still going to have to cut a hole here to match the fuel tank pipe, inlet pipe, but right here I marked right there. That's where I'm going to cut. It'll give me plenty of leeway to move back and forth, and I cut pretty much a little under, but right there, because you have an indentation for the light right here. This will, when I get rid of this, this undercoating, I'll grind it down, put it in there, tack it right in, and that way this will be stationary. Then we can continue with our modifications in order to get the fuel tank in. Door shell is here. What it is, it's on this ridge. The top part of this is on the ridge so I can weld it. I have a set of vice grips clamping it to the bottom here so it just remains tight. I don't really care about the actual fitment. I care about it being level here so it's in place where I'm going to weld it. The reason is that we need to have a place for the fuel filler neck. I got to have a hole saw right here, drill through. After that is done, then tack weld it up, weld it right here, start doing the rest of the inside of the trunk for the battery box and make sure the fuel tank fits, and then we'll go from there. I'll try and figure it out as I go along. So let me go grab the drill and I'll zip this out. Well, take a look. It's not even remotely close to where it's going to be for the filler neck. Ah, Jesus. Well, I think I'm going to have to go up and I'm going to go get my Quattro tank because this thing is supposed to go up like that. This thing's fully there. The most this thing will go up is like that. And even it won't even come even remotely close to the filler neck. So I have an Quattro tank. I'm going to go bring it down, see what it looks like. If not, I know I have the Coupe GT tanks out there, but I'm going to have to build mounts to make it fit. So let's see what happens. Let me run up and I'll be right back. As you can see, the Quattro tank, the Quattro tank or Quattro tank, won't fit. It's almost exactly the same filler neck as the 4000 Quattro or 80 Quattro in Europe. You know, let's try one other option and see if the original Coupe GT tank I can put in there because this thing is so big. I'll show you the difference here in just a second, but let's just throw a Coupe GT tank in there and see what happens. Here's the Coupe GT tank. If you take a look, this is a flat piece, and down there it's, you know, what was that, parallelogram? Flat piece down there to drain the tank all the way to the bottom. One thing, I might use this, either way, no matter if I use the 4000 Quattro tank or I use this tank, I gotta cut these mounts off. Those mounts are for the retractable seat belt harness, you know, stock in the 4000 Quattro. I originally wanted to use them, but because I wanted to at least show there's seat belts in the back, just because it's kind of cool to say, hey, let me put the effort into it. But I'll put retractables in there, even though you're not going to be able to use the seats. You know, if you cut your feet off, you might be able to use the seats, but other than that, no. So I have to cut those off. I'm going to cut them off on the other side, and I'm either going to fit this or the 4000 Quattro tank. I'm going to put them both in. I'm going to bend both necks and see exactly what's going to work. I'm going to probably try the 4000 Quattro one first to see if it fits better, which hopefully it will. Don't know, but I would much rather have that one because it's much better utilization of space. Oh, it never ends, does it? So look at the stuff you're going to run into when you start building these things. Loads of fun. All right, well, before I start cutting that stuff up, I wanted to say they're about the same. Well, little piece of Quattro trivia. Quattro tank, 4000 Quattro tank. This is approximately, I think it was 5 gallons, a little over 5 US gallons, smaller than this fuel tank. And there's less room in the luggage compartment. So, I like it better, personally. I always thought these things just were, you know, too big for what they were, especially around here. I mean, it might have been great for touring in Europe back in the 80s, early 80s, because of, you know, high-test fuel stations were probably few and far between. I think it used, you know, the Quattro used, I think, 4-star or 5-star fuel. I mean, I'm not really sure what it was. But hopefully we'll get this one in. If not, we'll have to jury rig something with the Coupe GT tank. So let me cut the mounts off, and we will attempt to use this. If not, that. If not, that. Okay, let me try it. Let me grab some bolts so I can bolt this in, and then we can start moving the neck around to see if it'll work. I gotta bend it up. One of these. Oh, let's see if it doesn't break. Oh, well, that felt like it moved. Take a look. All right, here's the cap. We have to get this gator on like this. And it's tough, but it'll, you know, looks like it's working. One side is a little bit more crunched than the other. I'm probably going to have to use a CV joint clamp in order to just change the aspect of it. But other than that, it looks like this gator will fit on. I mean, it doesn't have the ring inside here yet, but I call that a win. Let's try and work out the rest of the stuff that's going on in the luggage department and get this, at least get the back half done. Here's the gator right here. As you can see, this is the original line where it is. It's pulled probably about 3/8 of an inch. What's that, like 11 millimeters or something like that. I have a feeling this might pop out. I don't really know. What I'm thinking about doing is inverting this and using a clamp, like a hose clamp, to seal it up. That way there'll be no stress up here to pull it out. That's something. So let me grab the plate or the panel that I cut out for the door panel for inside here. I gotta do a little bit of modification to that before we tack it in, and then we're gonna jump on to doing the frame rails. One thing I want to do to this, well, after I cut the hole, is I want to actually round over the edges, basically making a stronger piece of metal. And what it is I just take it like this and I just tap it over. You can do it with a hammer and a dolly just as easy as doing it on here. I just prefer it because it's easy. For me, it's easier, you know. It's rounded off. I have to grind out some of the sharper edges on here, but other than that, it looks pretty good. What we got to do now is throw this back in the car so I can weld the top of it to the edge right there. Pull the tank, of course, put it back in, make sure it all fits. I am not going to tap any of this stuff down because this might be a tab, don't really know. Now I got to see what the tab is on the actual filler neck for that tank in order to attach it to this. So let's throw this in here, tack it in, so we can at least start getting everything else done. So let's jump into that. Looks like it kind of fits. I'm going to have to trim this right down here. This won't be bad, but I have to trim that right down there. I'll mark that. But I call that a win. It's not fully on. I can adjust it more, but as you can see, with it rounded like that, it doesn't cut into the gator. Let me get the welder out, and I'll mark that with a pen first. Pull that out, get the welder, and weld it up. Whew. Oh, not too much fire. Alright, this is kind of stitched in. What we have to do is do the frame rails next. I got to cut those out, and we'll keep working on trying to get a floor into the back of this sucker. Alright, let's change gears, and I'll go grab the cutting wheel and cut that off. Our new rear supports. Oh, this is a bumper insert from a Subaru Impreza. Remember on the Audi Rally, I had that one, the bumper support that I said was from a Merkur? It wasn't. I knew, it stuck in my mind because the Merkurs actually had aluminum bumper inserts, you know, at least for America did. I'm not sure what they did on the European. I know what the Cosworth did, but I didn't know what the regular Sierras did. But that was from the rear of a Subaru Impreza, same Impreza that this came from. This is the front bumper insert. It's really beefy. And what I gotta do is, you know, I'm gonna cut these mounts off, then I'm gonna cut it straight down like this, and figure out how we can use it. But, you know, there's some of the things in here I like is like the bends, you know, and seeing how it bends like that, I'm sitting there going, that might be very advantageous. So let's get to cutting, and I'll cut this up, and we'll go from there. Now we have to make the rails for the back to prevent ingress into the luggage compartment and to protect the fuel tank. This is more than capable, but I have to do two things with it. The first thing is preventing, you know, anything coming inside. Second thing, this part right here is going to be, I'm going to basically cut it in half and join it to right around here on the wheel well. As you can see, this thing lifts up. And it'll lift up to the point where I'll show you. Take a look right here. This is where the bumper mounts. The bumper mounts on that, well, the Sport Quattro bumper actually mounts up here. It didn't even come even remotely close, so that's why I hacked this all out, just to see roughly where it's going to be, because I knew I was going to be building a plate anyway. What the thing is with this chassis rail, as you can see, it turns up. I'm going to cut this as far as, it's probably pretty much in half, and affix it to the wheel well. And when this thing comes up, it'll come up so I can use the other center section right here, right across here. And that way I can drill 2 holes through there and it will mount the bumper absolutely securely. And it'll give me like a pseudo roll cage, because, you know, in the Audi Rally I used, you know, roll cage tubing and triangulation to run the ingress, you know, so when you back into a tree, you know, when, like I always say, when rodent talent runs out, this is what happens. This is basically acting the same thing, but it's not roll cage tubing. It's basically, how can I put it, rectangular tubing, but it's not even tubing. It's sheet metal bent up. That's what everything in these cars, or everything in a production car, is just bent up sheet metal. It's not actual tubing or actual rectangular stock. So I'm going to pretty much just, you know, there's a hole right here, and it makes it, it's pretty much halfway. I'm just going to cut that right there, lay it in there, and figure out how this is going to be put. Then I'll take the other one, trim that, and put it across here to make where the holes are. I think it's going to be pretty decent, and I might even have a center section that goes to the rib support. I don't know yet. It's one of those things where I haven't gotten that far. But let me cut this in half, and I am going to trim that one up, and we'll see what we got to work with. I think it's going to be okay. And I want to keep this low enough so I can have the battery on it. This is a big thing for me also, and as far to the ends as possible, because I also have to get the spare tire over it and use the spare tire mount that I cut out, as this is going to be bottom part and then the top part. It'll be another extra stiffening brace. But let's first cut this out, and we will make it work, or try and make it work. All right, plan of attack. What we got to do? Well, first thing, those two, what I would call chassis legs, are going to be fitting to here. Those don't need to be fitted until this is fitted. The reason why is this has to fit flush to this rear apron, and I have to cut the bolt holes for the bumper to fit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the holes for the bumper, fit the bumper, line it all up, and after it's lined up, then I'm going to weld it in. I'm not going to really do it any other way, but I also want to show you one other thing on how we're going to do the floor, because, you know, as you saw before, it was all so rusty. But I put some jackets and wood on it. I'm going to show you the difference on how you're going to be mating up the Coupe GT back end with the 4000 Quattro lower end, or it's even like an R Quattro rear end, basically. It's the same thing. So I'll show you this. What we have here, this is the Coupe GT. This is the 4000 Quattro. You can see the lip is up like this. The reason why? The rear mufflers. The rear muffler came out around that axle, turned, went straight for the actual physical back box or the muffler box, and then a pipe came out and exited out the side. I'm going to keep that same configuration in this car, the Coupe GT, and two-wheel drive thing. As you can see right here, this is the indentation because the muffler was elongated and the tailpipe came straight out. They didn't have the subframes and the drivetrain to contend with, so that's how they did it. It increased the luggage capacity in the Coupe GT, but you had to be the constraints of the 4000 Quattro when it came to the suspension where the back box is going to be. What am I going to do? Where am I going to cut it to join all this in? Don't know, but I'm going to keep it to this height. This is the height that I'm going to do. I'm going to keep the jack in to keep it to this height, so when we fit the cross ties, or cross bar back here, it's all going to fit to here. That's my goal. And these things will just go in wherever it's going to go, wherever it's going to look the best and actually be functional, you know, for what I'm going to do. So let's get right onto it and start fitting the back crossbar. That's pretty much how it's going to go. We have to pull this out and start trimming it so it fits flush. It'll be fitting flush on this side, not on the ridges that they put into the back. And then I'm going to probably pound this down, clean it up, and weld it to this after I have everything fit. That's, you know, I'll weld it in there, pull the bumper back off, and pound these things down, grind them, and fit them. That's pretty much just, you know, the way where it's going to happen for at least this build. So let me get on to, I got to start trimming a little bit here, and so I can get the bar in. First thing we have to do is, seeing how Subaru was so nice to have us, you know, a centered post, exactly centered. Well, I am going to center it pretty much exactly where the door lock is. I mean, the trunk lock is. Let's take a look at the sides. Now this is centered. As you can see, the sides, especially when you lift up the pan, there's not much that needs to be cut off. It's only hitting right over here. And what I'm thinking about doing is taking this and cutting it at an angle. Not getting rid of this, just cutting this at an angle down here and just getting rid of what this section right here. And the same thing on the other side, you know. We'll see if that works. If it doesn't work, I'll just cut it straight off. Okay, we have the back support right here. This is center line. It's a center line right here with the trunk lock. Pretty much, I'm going to find the center line of the bumper and drill the holes for the mounting holes. I am not going to weld this. I am going to tack it in. That's it. So I can easily cut the tacks off. After, you know, the whole thing is, once I get that in, I'll get the floor in. I'll get, you know, the other boxes all in. And once that's all squared away, then when I put the quarters on, who knows if I'm going to have to shift it back and forth, up and down, in order to make the bumper fit correctly, because nothing on any of the body panels is kind of really lining up. You know, I mean, it's not bad, but it's just, you know, it's just the nature of the beast, I guess. So let me go grab the bumper, start marking it, and start drilling some holes. All right, here's the cool wheel bumper right here. Take a look. This mount right here is centered pretty much. you know, it looks pretty decent. Delamination around here, yeah, well, kind of expect that. Over here, it's not even remotely close to center. It's got to be 4 or 5 mils off at least, you know. So they just punched it and threw it in there, and that's pretty much, you know, how it should go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find out in between these two centers and in between these two centers and see which one is closer and see which one looks better, and I'll put it up to the bumper and say, oh, okay. But I'm probably going to use the center in between here. Not really sure, but let's first measure this. This is just so you can see it. We got here, we have 970 millimeters, and which equates like, what is it, 45 mil, and we have to mark that. Bring this up, and I want to keep it from the outside just in case they're bent. So this is 45, is right here, and we'll go from the outside on this. It's 1,605 millimeters. So you got the 802.5 millimeters from that very point. I don't want to lose that point. 802.5 millimeters. So it is very close. It's probably what's like 3 millimeters difference in between. So I'm pretty much going to do whatever the center that, you know, whatever the center is right here, and that's where I'm going to leave it, and that's how we're going to put it on there. So it's really not too far off, but you know, probably the 3 millimeters is because of this offset. You know, the offset that they cut right here. That's probably it. So we'll just put some tape, paint on here and see where they end up. All right, here we have the bumper. As you can see, it's indentation down. It's pointing to right here, but that's just the quality of the fiberglass. What I am trying to do is get this, get the sides underneath the underneath this portion where the real main quarter is going to be. What I did was first thing is I put this thing in the center and got it to the point where I think it's going to be good. And now I have to drill holes right here, and then I'm going to drill the holes on the other side. I'm going to oversize them. That's just what I'm going to do, just so it gives me plenty of leeway to go back and forth. That's the only reason why I'm doing it. Gotta have fun, huh? Drill the back holes and install it back into the car. Just tried to put the bar in. I didn't even notice this. Take a look. They are wider here than they are here. They will put in so they converge. So I have to elongate the slots with a die grinder. And it's the same thing down. I'll show you. Same thing here. Not nearly as bad as the other one, but they are definitely closer here than they are here. Well, just part of the things of high quality stuff. Let's get out the die grinder and make some elongated holes. I think we have a match. That's what a big washer and a welder's for. Before I put the bumper on, I just wanted to do a quick trim and hammer and dolly a little bit just to get relatively flat, and let's see what it looks like. Yep, looks like shit. Let's take a look inside. Here it is. Here's the mount. The length that will be attaching to it. I don't know going to have it this way, this way. Haven't quite figured it out. But I think the first thing we need to do, see all this rust and everything? I think I just need to cut this pan out. Cut the pan out and then figure out what I'm going to use, you know, to attach it to the 4000 pan. That way it might give me a little bit of different thought process on where the chassis legs are going to attach. I don't really know. I'm also thinking about having a center bar to come down through or come off of here for the tow hook. Not really sure, or off the chassis leg. Don't really know where I'm going to have it at. But we're going to find that out after I start cutting all this stuff out. Oh, isn't this lovely? Okay, now take a look. We have this big gaping hole, and it's sitting on the floor with all the dust. I got to have some metal around here that's going to, I can basically piece in here and actually look kind of cool. I wonder what I have. I have a thought though. Check it out. All right, let me see. I'm going to do a quick test fit and be right back. Yep, recycling again. More parts you don't have to buy if this works. It might not. Who knows? But what I'm going to try and do, seeing how it already has a curve, I was going to basically trim off all the rust and see what I can do to put it inside there. I'm going to first take off these quieting strips, and yeah, we'll just see how it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. How much money do I have into it? You know, bucks worth of grinding wheels. Let's try. Let's first get these off. Flattens out kind of nice. Now, I have the panel. It's pushed all the way back here, so it gives us leeway to cut in order to fit. The first thing we have to do is we have to figure out where we're going to slice this to meet here. What I want to do is start conforming this metal to here. As you can see, this is the inner shell from the door. I can put it just about anywhere. I'm just going to make it straight, then tack it in, then slice it down and mold or butt weld it all in. But let's first do this. We first have this right here, and let's start conforming it. So if it's right there, and it's about out that far, let's go chop it out, because it's just a rough cut for now. My magic marker wasn't working, so I had to go get my soapstone. Oh well. Here's a rough cut of the floor pan. I mean, I think it's it gives me enough here to make a lip to connect to this, which I'm happy about. You're probably wondering why I didn't use the cardboard to put it in there, because you know what? I was going to do probably the same amount of cutting. Really. It's a little high in the back, but that's no problem, because this right here is curved up and it'll easily match. I'm keeping this right here just in case. You'll see why here in just a little bit. Let me take this. I want to see if that thing is relatively close to this. If it is, I'm just going to draw it out on the other door panel, cut it, and start shaping that one in. It's a little smaller over on that side than it is on this side. So what I'm going to do, just extend it 1 inch, pretty much. Actually, I'll probably go to here, then go all the way straight back and cut it into here. But this curve looks pretty good to me, and that's about the only thing I need. And the width is good, but this is going to have to be elongated to fit into it because it's a different channel on both sides. God. Look at the amount of Bondo that they use. Oh, they're bloody sculptors. Wow, hopefully I can get it off that. Wow. Jeez, look at this. All they could have done was just pushed out the panel and used like 1/10 of that. All right, let me get the hammer. Let me see what happens. Well, it comes off easy. Whee! Wow. Talk of, you know, usually I'm trying to praise him, but oh my God, these guys are freaking hacks. Oh man. All right, I'm going to put this on the anvil and try and tap some of it out and go from there. Well, at least it's just a floorboard. Initial cut, not bad. All right. That's if I push it down, it's flat, so I can just trim inside here when I decide to attach it to the back. This, I just, pounded down as you saw, because the thing is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this and weld it onto there and pound it down. The bottom piece for the frame rail is going to be over here anyway. Now, what we're going to do next is figure out what's going to be in the center. The reason why I didn't cut these too much, I should have cut that just to get this other section off, but I'm going to show you what I'm going to use. It's going to be an ingress into the space for the rear muffler. Other than that, it's going to be a win for the luggage compartment. Well, you're probably wondering, what are we going to fill this hole with? We have this. Do we have another door we're going to use? No, I don't feel like cutting up another door. Plus, I need to do something. Like I said, I'm going to be basically taking away some of the space where the rear muffler sits. And this will definitely have to be shielded, but I'm going to be using a non-standard, very small muffler in the back anyway, just to make it sound cool. That's not here nor there. What I am going to use to fill this hole is handy dandy toolbox tray. And you're probably thinking to yourself, why? Why are you doing this? Well, I have a reason. There's a couple of reasons. I kept trying to figure out how I was going to hide things in this car. And when you're building a car like this, it gives you the opportunity to hide things. Now, I want to have a period correct halfway decent stereo. I have this old Kenwood. It's ancient, but it was a top of the line unit. There was like $900 back in the mid to late 80s, and I think it's really cool looking. Well, it was a double DIN unit, and the only way to run it is with a double DIN amplifier, which is this right here. I found it on eBay for 20 bucks. This is going to go right there, and if I put some rubber spacers underneath it, it's going to fit flush with the bottom. So I could have like a small board across, or a carpet across here with a small board. Don't really know how I'm going to do it, but what I am, definitely going to be doing is hiding the amp. That's the main thing. I want the amp hidden. And it does a couple other things also. This back portion, I was thinking about it, and it's really thick steel. Wouldn't that be interesting to have the ears off of the rear transmission mount welded to that? What it does, it creates more structure in this, and also gives the added mount on the chassis for the rear differential mount stiffness. I mean, it can't hurt. So I'm going to give that a shot. So let me cut this box up so we can actually put this in. All I have to do is I'm going to cut this right down here, slice it, spin it around, and then inset it in. This one I might tack in and weld. I'm probably not going to tack in those because I still have to clean all that stuff off with the grinder. And I want to get some other stuff built for the strut towers first before we end the episode. But I'm trying trying to get this thing all squared away. Hopefully we can get this thing going. We're on the final. We're on the final. So let me grab the grinder and we'll zip it out. Roughly speaking, I don't think it looks that bad. See here, I'm starting to grind off so I can start the weld. What I need to do next is this right here. This is part of the rear apron pan. I have to cut right here so this will go in here. And if you take a look around here, this is where I cut it right there. If I push this in, this portion right down here, this is actually the part of the actual rear quarter. I'm going to weld into this and weld it onto that panel. Hopefully that will make it a relatively strong member, but I really wasn't sure how far out I wanted this. That's the reason why I left it like this. So let me grab the cutter, and I'm going to cut it right in here and just flop it over and cut what's inside here. Here are the spot welds that form the lower part of the chassis and like a structural cross member. After this is just sheet metal. That's all it is. This right here was just an extra something or other. Don't know what it is. Could have been a mount for exhaust or whatever. Don't know. But let's at least tack this in so I can start making everything, so I can start pounding everything out. And I'll show you, actually I'll get the other side in, then I'll show you what I'm going to do here. Because what I'm going to do is plunge cut and butt weld together. That's pretty much what I'm going to do there. So, but first, let me start by tacking this thing up. One thing I'm doing when I put this pan in, I'm going from the bottom like this, and you see the lip down here? Well, if I have it right here, it's exactly straight. So what I'm going to do is probably bend the lip up, weld it. Don't really know yet, but I want to have it to this as much as I can. And I'll use some vice grips, if I can get on them, like this. And I will weld the pan to where I need it to be. So right now, just have to put it in there and boom. Now we have to get the toolbox tray in. I got to grind this side and grind inside of here because I'm going to make a lip and bang it down. I'm going to also grind on this side. So I'm going to weld it, and when I cut the lip and bang it down and weld it on the inside here, it should be good. When I weld it on the inside here, it should be good because I'm going to grind this and weld it on the inside. So it'll be an extremely stiff structure when it's in, that's pretty much what I want. And the other side is, I'm just going to grind the top here, and I'm not going to grind the back here because I really don't care. I just want to get, when I have the plates, if I have plates come off the back of the mount to put on here, just don't know where they're going to be. So let's just zip this off. We are on to the final section of this video because I looked at the rough footage and I think I have to go through 5 or 6 hours of video. It's like, oh man, and you're probably boring the shit out of you. All right, well, last thing is these little sections from the bumper from the Subaru, I just want to cut a pie piece out here and on the other side, fold them in to continue making the box, but then it'll give me much more metal to weld to. That way I can have it set up down here where the 2 little dog legs on the rear bumper support just sit right on it and you can weld right to it. I'm not going to weld these in for 2 reasons. I don't know, I have to fit the bumper and all the quarters first to get that exact, and I ran out of argon. It's like, yeah, that's the story of my life. Expect that when you start doing this. You're going to be running out of everything. So let me go zip that off. It shouldn't take very long. I just want to set it in here, trim it up a little bit, and that's pretty much it. That'll be the end of the episode. Then we'll run over what we did. On that, let me just do that and get this bad Johnny going. There it is. Let's do the other side. Here we go. We're done with this episode. Thank God. It's so long, like the other one. This is taking a lot of work to figure out how to reuse the stuff that you don't have to buy because get it from your parts cars. And I think it's going to work out fairly well, especially when the rear bumper is fitted. Then I can tie in that bumper support and this and weld it all to the chassis with some gussets and so forth. And I think it'll be very, very strong, and I'll feel safe about it. Next thing, don't really know what I'm going to do. It's one of 3 things. It's either we're going upwards, we're doing the transmission tunnel, or we're doing the suspension. Because I'm building all new suspension for this thing from what the parts and pieces I had. I only had to buy a couple things, but it's to show you how to get some really inexpensive coilovers. Or not really inexpensive, something like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But thank you very much for showing up. I'm just, I'm nothing special, just a recycling hillbilly trying to build a Sport Quattro. And it's actually starting to look cool because it's actually being put back together. So thank you very much for showing up. I really appreciate it, and have a great day. Let's see how it works.